Fantastic. Right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome indeed to MPW. Welcome to MPW Interactively, as this is now. For those of you who had it, I hope you had a very enjoyable long bank holiday weekend. For anyone who didn't, at least I hope you managed to catch the coronation, which once again put the UK back in the shop window as a desirable place to come and visit. By way of quick introduction to you. My name is James Barton. I'm the Director International here at MPW, and this morning it's my pleasure to introduce you to our May series of talks, which hopefully over the course of the next 5 weeks should give you a little bit more by way of information, education, and knowledge as to some of the things that are changing and developing in the English educational system over the course of the next 12 to 24 months in various different areas and corners of the system itself. These talks are designed to inform. They're not designed necessarily to promote. So whilst at MPW, we obviously are here as three wonderful independent colleges, of which you'll have heard of and know lots about, we're actually here to be able to guide and to give you that information that you can take to your students and take into your guidance to them on their educational journeys themselves. So please do ask as many questions as you possibly like over the course of the next 5 weeks. Before I introduce our speaker this morning, let me just shamelessly plug the series, which picks up again next week with how to become part of the varsity that is Oxford and Cambridge there, taking an interactive live look at how walking a student through the actual process itself and giving you some more targeted tips and training as to what they can be doing now. The following week, we then go into the doctor's surgery, as it were, and take a look at the medical changes that are happening over the course of the next 12 to 24 months as well, but also with a lot of virtual work experience coming online now for medical school students, what students can be doing in the run up to even coming over pre-A level and pre-university itself. Following week to that, we then look at the interview process and how to succeed in interview, not only for school interviews, but university interviews, and even into the job market itself. So we're taking another little interactive look into that. And then the final week, we'll then do an interactive art masterclass, which is tailored towards how you get into the art schools, but also involves you doing some of that interactive art yourself. But for today, I want to introduce our speaker over in MPW Birmingham, which is Ryan Moran, who is our VP International over there, who also sits on the UCAS Advisory Board, who is going to inform and update what is actually changing with UCAS over the next year or so, because there's been a lot of noise about that. And so to actually cut through that noise and that jargon, I'm going to hand over to Ryan. At the end of the session, we'll pick up with questions, but please do ask as you go through. Otherwise, we'll revert to a Q&A at the end. But Ryan, if I can pass to you now, and thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
Thanks, James. Yes, as James says, my name's Ryan. I'm based in MPW Birmingham. So James mentioned I'm a member of the advisory board, so the international advisory board for UCAS. So, I mean, going back a few months, I didn't know what this was, so I'll just give you some context. I know it sounds good, so let me explain a little bit about it. So the advisory group is obviously designed to try and enhance international applications and try to improve the process. So obviously, yeah, it has an international bias, like my job has an international bias, but it's made up of people from the university sector, from outside of education, so traditional education, and more recently, people obviously from sixth form colleges. So I'm one of two people on the board who work in a sixth form college. And I suppose why I joined was to try and give them more of an insight into the challenges that international students face when applying through obviously a UK-based system, having sort of limited prior knowledge of how it works or the expectations. So yeah, I'm sort of the person on there at the minute saying, well, can we change this? Can we make this easier? And how can we give our international students a better opportunity of going to higher ranking universities, but also just more choice? So trying to give them information about what is actually out there and get them on the best possible route. So yeah, so that's sort of my role within the group, and then obviously contributing to other areas and discussions. And I'll be able to give you a bit of an insight into things that are being considered at the moment, which I think will be beneficial to MPW students. So yeah, let's talk about UCAS and UCAS changes. So the initial reports were that there's going to be sort of huge changes in lots of different areas, and I think this is probably not the case. Obviously, there are some changes, but they're not as expected from prior conversations. So we're going to look at the application process in general. References, where you'll probably see the biggest change. We'll touch upon personal statements, medicine and dentistry, and then, as I said, I'll give you an insight into the international world and what's being considered in those areas. I'm going to have the chat box open on the right hand side. So if, as I'm talking, you've got anything that you want me to address, or you've got any quick questions, if you just chuck them into chat, I'm happy to talk you through those as we go through. Okay, so as always, UCAS have released the key dates for the next cycle. We can see that obviously the search tools are already displayed. The application portal for advisors, we can see is open. But most importantly, so we're looking at when the first batch of applications can be submitted. So from the 5th of September, we can start getting applications off. And then a date that we're all obviously really keen to know is the early application deadline, which is the 16th of October. So our medicine, dentistry, Oxbridge application, vet science, we know we need to prepare our students for those applications quite early. We know the challenges that come with that. So the earlier we can get started in preparing students, especially with the new cycle, the better. And then again, we've got our deadlines for submission. I mean, there's very little change in terms of the academic calendar from previous years. So yeah, nothing groundbreaking there. So as I said, this is probably the biggest change. So UCAS are scrapping the traditional reference. And there's pros and cons to that, especially for the MPW group. I think the UCAS reference was a great opportunity for MPW tutors to enhance student applications and try to ensure that we're giving them the best opportunity by writing obviously outstanding references for top universities. Now, there's still going to be an opportunity to do that. It's just going to be a different process. So why are UCAS doing it? Well, the biggest driver was probably to try and even things out a little bit, because they felt like certain students were getting advantage potentially in the independent sector from the quality of references that had been written, and maybe students in other sectors were losing out because of the pressure on teachers, the time constraints. For those who have never written a UCAS academic reference, it's a big job. And if you're writing 15, 20 of these for your tutees across an academic year, it's extremely time consuming. And if I was a teacher in the state sector teaching 30, 40 hours a week and trying to write these academic references, I think it would be even more challenging. And I think UCAS have noticed this and tried to change the process to benefit academic staff, but obviously try not to penalize the students in terms of the content that is given too. So yeah, the drivers around it, trying to reduce time and expectations. So what's actually changing? So they're going for a model where it's 3 questions, or a free text approach, but with 3 structured questions. So in essence, you've still got the opportunity to get all the details you need in. It's just going to slightly differ. So you can see the first section is just a general statement about your school or college. So this is where we'll put in, well, what does MPW do? What do we offer? And what do students do when they're with us? Okay, so really generic stuff. The second question, extenuating circumstances that could have affected the student's education or academic achievement. So again, there was an opportunity to do this before, and we've often sent letters direct to universities in terms of extenuating circumstances. So this could be a diverse range of things, from a student who suffered from ill health during their academic studies, which has meant that potentially their grades might be not where we would have expected them to be. But it also could be a student whose academic profile is not sort of a traditional one. So they might have gone down a different route, or have had to move schools, or not completed a year of study for a certain reason in their home country. We know that we get lots of these students, and actually giving the context to universities is really important, because if that student has not had sort of a really straightforward progression through GCSE equivalent years, through to their A levels or foundation, we need to tell the universities why, and showcase that student actually does have the ability to attend a top university. We also get a chance to obviously to talk about their achievements there, and on what they've actually done, and how impressed we are with them. And then section 3 is sort of your more traditional reference, so where we have the opportunity to actually sell the student to the university. So what specific skills have they got for that course? And although we have done that in the past, I think this is a slight change in the approach that we're going to have to take. Traditionally, we would have given educational context, if they're applying for medicine, what they like in biology, what they like in chemistry, have they done maths, talking through those areas, and obviously outlining the skills. But I think in this case, this needs to be more course specific. So I think as providers of references, we need to be sitting with students, looking at the course content that they're applying for, and looking at how their profile fits that, and obviously outlining the skills they have to be successful on that course, and not just in terms of, yeah, they're good at biology, but yeah, what else can they do? What specific skills do they have that will help them to be a doctor, to be a dentist, to go into business management, whatever course that student is applying for. Yeah, so obviously universities will then digest this information, as they have done in the past, and then use it moving forward, to make offers. So the format is changing, but although the reason for the change was to probably even the playing field, I think that we can still add real value, especially in the third question, where we can get in that good information about our students, and why they're suitable for the intended course. So yeah, personal statements. So we thought there was going to be an overhaul to personal statements, just like with the reference process. But actually, after UCAS compiled some research, and spoke with students, they decided that not to make sort of big changes here, and students value the personal statement process, and their opportunity to write a document that sells themselves for the course. Now, this is going to be revisited again, and it could eventually, there's been like a 6-question approach that they've discussed, but at the minute there's nothing concrete out there to say that, yeah, personal statements are going to go. And again, this is student driven, just like references, and the changes to references are driven by academic staff in schools or colleges who have given their opinion on how things should change. It's the same with personal statements, and the conclusion is that actually UCAS feel that this works. And again, I would say I agree. Giving the student an opportunity to write a letter to the university to explain why they're suitable for that course, I think that can only be a good thing. Yeah, so no major changes to the personal statement process, which I feel is a good thing for MPW students. Okay, so obviously MPW Birmingham, this is our sweet spot. So medicine, dentistry, vet science. Our vice principal Adam Cross, I know he's going to be doing a talk on this with you guys through MPW Talks moving forward. So yeah, we feel like we're an excellent, just like MPW London and Cambridge, but an excellent college to provide support for these applications. And again, so the biggest change would be BMAT. So removing BMAT from the application process. So this is for 24-25 entry. So universities are going to provide their own specific exams. So BMAT-based universities are going to provide their own exams to students. Again, the reason for these changes are driven by academics in universities who feel like this will be a better process for finding the best candidates. But I don't think students will be too happy because UCAT is just continuing as normal. So we all know how tough UCAT can be for students to achieve the grade they need, and we'll continue to provide that preparation within college and that support with UCAT and medicine applications. James touched upon earlier about work experience and the options for online work experience. I couldn't emphasize this enough. If you've got students who want to apply for these courses, that over the summer you need to try and really persuade them to get some work experience. And if they can, I know it's more difficult in current times, but if they can get face-to-face experience, it's highly valuable in the process. Interviews will continue as normal. So again, MMI interviews, face-to-face interviews within medical universities will continue, and we'll continue to do that preparation within college. We recently hosted an agent event in Birmingham in the last couple of weeks, and we did a mock-up of MMI interviews to give agents an insight into what this actually entails. And it's a scary process for students, for 17, 18-year-old to go into this and be put through 5 or 6 different interviews and different scenarios under pressure, especially when we know, I mean, how much they want this place on the course and how competitive it is. So if schools or colleges are throwing students into these interviews without preparation, they're putting them at a massive disadvantage. Okay, we can't create the pressures of the real thing, but we can get close enough to really add value in that area. So yeah, I mean, the importance of interviews and interview prep alongside MMI. We do 3 to 4 face-to-face interviews with different members of staff. So they'll start at PT level with their personal tutor. They'll then go to a senior member of staff, and usually finishing with Adam, who's the vice principal, and writes the getting into medicine book for the MPW group. So it's a really good preparation within the medical society across all of the MPW colleges. So yeah, it's going to be as competitive as ever. The highlight is BMAT's being removed, but UCAT continues as normal. Right, so this is, I mean, lots of the information I've shared with you is obviously it's not groundbreaking. It's available in other places, and you're just getting my spin on it. This stuff is, yeah, this is more in the know stuff. So from the UCAS meetings, and just an insight into what they're considering in terms of international students. Yes, they're trying to ensure that advisors have the right information. So I think this can be really tough. So as an advisor in college, we're dealing with students from all over the world, different academic backgrounds, obviously different qualifications. From WIAC in Nigeria, they completed Form 4 or Form 5 in Hong Kong. Are they a Band 1 school? It's pretty complex, and if you've not done this for a long time, it's extremely challenging to look at a student's academic profile and try to point them in the right direction in terms of which universities they should be aiming at, or hoping to attend. So a big thing that I've been pushing with the advisory board is to try and simplify that process and to give more clarity on sort of GCSE equivalent grades and what they actually mean from different countries. And that might seem like a strange thing to say. I mean, what do the qualifications mean? But actually trying to compare what students have achieved in their home country to GCSE equivalent grades and expectations in the UK, it's not a straightforward process. And there's going to be lots of advisors out there who just don't have this information or don't have the time to invest to find it. So it definitely needs streamlining. And looking at the other side of it as well, I think it's obvious that some universities that they don't fully understand it either, and we can send profiles across, and the responses, it's obvious that there is some confusion, and it's not straightforward. Yes, this is an equivalent to this, or this fits this. So yeah, trying to get that maybe built into UCAS where we can actually upload academic transcripts rather than students filling in and trying to find the right area to put their WIAT grades in. So yeah, I think there's definitely room for improvement there. Just the accessibility as well in terms of UCAS, trying to get students familiar with it earlier. So trying to do this maybe across school networks in different countries, just so they've got an idea that if they are coming to the UK, what is the application process and what does it look like and what are the expectations. Yeah, I mean, point three for me is the most important one. So universities and colleges can easily find information to make selection decisions and target support. So just having the knowledge of looking at the student profile, looking what's available and giving students as many options as possible. Again, it sometimes can be quite narrow in terms of where a student wants to go or their knowledge of where they can go or what's good for this. I mean, if we put into Google the best university in the UK for business management, you'll get 5 or 6 different websites all giving you different opinions. So again, what website should they be looking at? Where is the best information? How does the website compile this data? What do they base it on? Is it on student experience? Is it on outcomes? Is it on value for money in terms of fees? I mean, depending on the student, lots of these different areas could be the defining factor to where they go, what scholarships are available in the application process. I've worked with students from all over the world, and we can say to them, this is a brilliant university, this is a brilliant university. Yeah, but well, where can I get the biggest scholarship? Where can I get the best value for money? I get it. Attending university in the UK is expensive. So actually, yeah, we need to point them in the right direction. This is the best course. But yeah, can we give them information on where they can get this experience at a price where they can afford it and go on and have a good career? So there's lots of things to consider, and I think UCAS just need to try and compile an area within the website where we can access this information more clearly, and where students and parents or agents or guardians, whoever's helping with the application process, can also find this information. Okay, yeah, and then obviously an MPW plug from me. So yeah, we offer getting into guides for a range of courses across the MPW group. So from vet science, dentistry, law, all written by MPW staff. Yeah, there's lots of colleges around the UK have these in their libraries. They're excellent books for students, agents, parents, to get an insight into the courses. So obviously, if you're interested in any of those, just let us know. Yeah, I'm happy to take any questions. I mean, as I said, the information is not particularly groundbreaking. I've just tried to give you an insight into the changes that are there, and if anything comes up or any other information is available, I'll be happy to share it. Or if you've got questions or you want to have a chat with me, I'm happy for James just to share my email, and we can touch base on a one-to-one basis, and I can try and help with any potential queries that you've got. Thanks, James.
Ryan, thank you very much indeed. Much appreciated and very interesting in lots of respects. Partly because it still seems to be business as usual on certain things, despite the sort of the talk that's been going on for so long. But also interesting to hear about the changes. I've got a couple of questions to start off with, and if anyone else wants to ask any questions, please either unmute, join us, or pop it in the chat, and I'll field the question for you. But Ryan, after your sort of statement to the House, if we move to Prime Minister's question times at this moment in time, if the references are now more standardised, does it put more emphasis onto the student personal statement, onto a student's personal application itself, rather than on the references that were there before? Is there now more of an emphasis onto the personal statements, or still just about the same?
No, I definitely agree with that. They've tried to take the pressure off the tutors, off the advisors a little bit, giving them the opportunity to, as I said, provide more generic statements about the students rather than selling them as much. I think question 3 gives us an opportunity to do that, but there's going to be restrictions in there. We're probably not going to have the freedom to do what we've done before in the past. So yeah, I think the importance of personal statements has been enhanced, and as always, we can work with our students to ensure that the right information is in those documents and they're presenting themselves in the best light, and that's where we can give our students a competitive advantage.
How does taking the time off the tutors, off teachers in a way actually benefit the universities? Because I understand the rationale behind doing it, but from a university perspective, if you're taking away the reference or the guided reference from the actual teacher, how is that beneficial to the university? Do you think that we might start moving back to a stage whereby there's more aptitude tests on the horizon, there's more interviews coming back into the stream, or is it now just a state of it's a simple admin exercise getting into university, and that's how it's going to be more American in that sort of sense?
Yeah, it's a good point. And again, I think it's because of the quality of reference that was coming through was just so different depending on the provider. So yeah, I mean, we write really good references, and I'm not just saying that. I mean, I could share some with you. The references produced in MPW colleges are going to be some of the best out there. I mean, when we originally joined NCUK, our submission of UCAS references in the first year, their feedback was that they're the best academic references they've ever received from any university in an NCUK application process. So we know what we do works, but UCAS have obviously seen the disparity between what some colleges providing and what other colleges providing, and seeing how that affects the students, and they just feel like the playing field was too uneven. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. So as you said, the emphasis now is probably more on the student, and I definitely feel like, yeah, there's going to be more entrance exams, more aptitude tests. They're going to become a much bigger part of the application process.
Yeah, I heard some chat between schools on this at one point, in the fact that there's an almost an unwritten worry about this now, whereby there's more emphasis on schools as well to actually get their predictions right, versus actually talking people up in references. And if you don't get your predictions right, then in some ways that's going to negatively impact your following year's cohorts, etc. If you're always seen to be overinflating predictions within that. So actually, it almost feels like there is more emphasis back onto the schools as well to actually do what they should be doing right from the start, which is to get your predictions absolutely right without flowering up the reference, and more emphasis onto the student to actually flower up their own personal statements and the quality of the information that they're delivering across. So there is a bit of worry from schools on this one as well.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it's working with international students. I think that process is even more difficult because, let's say we're working with a 1-year A-level student, and when they arrive, we think they're brilliant, we think they're really good, but they struggle to begin with because they're getting used to the system, they're getting used to being taught in a different language. And if we based our prediction in January and where we think they're going to be, we've obviously got to give them the benefit of the doubt. They've still got 6 or 7 months left on their course, and they've got a big journey to travel, and they're going to improve vastly. So actually asking someone to make a prediction on a grade before Christmas of what someone's going to get in an exam in June yeah, it's probably a flawed process. And I mean, as a human being, if I'm working with someone closely, I'm always going to give them the benefit of the doubt. If they're working at a B, but they could get to an A, why would I ever predict them a B? And then if they get a B, okay, it may be my prediction wasn't accurate, but I thought they could get there. And I think that's the challenge that lots of people face. And we always want to support our students and give them the opportunity to go to those top universities.
I agree. I think it's responsibly supporting aspiration, isn't it? Within that, with all those
Yeah.
words being important in the sentence. We've got a few questions that have come through, and we're touching on a lot of them. And I will come to all of those in just one second. I just want to ask a quick follow-up to this whole personal statement side of things, which is if the personal statement is still just as important. Are UCAS considering any dangers towards the rise of ChatGPT and other software in there that makes these almost undetectable at these particular points in time? Would the move towards doing a more standardized personal statement actually try and get around that particular system? Is there a viewpoint towards that yet, or is that not in the conversation for UCAS?
It's not something that came up massively at the last meeting. I think, yeah, obviously it's something that's changing everything. I mean, coursework and any aspect of academics. I mean, if I was at university now and I had that tool, I mean, would I use it? I mean, of course you would have a look at it and see what it produced, wouldn't you? If there's no comeback. So yeah, I think
very honest of
the
you, Ryan.
transition towards questions is possible. As I said, they've mentioned maybe a 6-question approach that are maybe more course specific, just like the reference, but gives you an opportunity to say why you're good and what skills and attributes you have. But I think a big part of personal statements is that they need to be personal. They need to be about that person. And ChatGPT, okay, it can create some really good paragraphs about business management with some theory in there, but can it sell an individual and their traits and how they come across? The opening paragraph for me of any personal statement is the most important thing. And I always try to get students to get something in there that's specific to them, because you'll read so many generic opening phrases. I want to be a doctor because my mom was sick. I mean, I think I've probably read that 200,000 times in personal statements. You've got to get something better. What have you read? What academic literature have you studied? What innovation in medicine has inspired you to want to be a doctor? I mean, and it's giving students that sort of advice. Go and read something. Go and do some research. You want to have something in your personal statement that nobody else has. Okay, that sells you as an individual. It shows your interest, your passion for that course.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing, and it goes back to your point on work experience, doesn't it? The one thing that ChatGPT and other software will find it very difficult to replicate is what you actually took from an experience. So if you're doing work experience, the answer is never what you've done. It's always what you've taken from that particular experience. And that is very difficult to replicate because obviously it is very personal, as you say. It's a personal statement, and the clue being in the title. Coming across to a question from Sarah Choi here in terms of, she would like to know about the personal statement, the 6 questions, in terms of a little bit more about that. While these aren't officially in place, do you have any guidance towards those 6 questions at all?
So the difference would be that they would be more university and course specific. So if you're applying for a business management course, the questions would obviously be based around that. Medicine, they'd be based around that. So it would give you the opportunity to make sure that you're writing things that are specific to the course you're applying to. So in a way, it gives you just a grid to fill in, guidance. It gives you cues and questions where you can provide specific information. Whereas obviously a personal statement is more free flowing. You can go down whatever route you want to go down. But as I said, this might not ever happen. It's being discussed, and this is initially the route I thought they would go down. But yeah, at the minute, the traditional personal statement is still in place.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you for that one. In terms of these aptitude tests, so we're going to have the medical webinar in a couple of weeks' time. But aside
Yeah.
from the BMAT changes, are there any more aptitude tests on the horizon, or aptitude changes, I should say, on the horizon at all?
Yeah, so universities are in the process of implementing their own exams. Whether this will come in for the 2024-24 cycle, I don't know, but I'm assuming if BMAT is being replaced, it's going in that cycle. There will need to be something put in place, unless they just go down the traditional UCAT route and just take UCAT. But universities that have used BMAT in the past, my instinct is they will implement their own entrance exam to replace that. But yeah, Adam, who will do the talk in a couple of weeks, might have a greater insight in that area through the research and conversations he's had with universities.
Absolutely. I don't know if you're going to have any insight on this, and I just want to be able to say to May at the start here that we have the art masterclass, which will answer this question in about 4 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time now. But Ryan, do you know of any or have any advice for art and design students, any special requirements going into the 2024 UCAS cycle at all?
Not a great insight, but I don't think a lot's changing. Obviously, it's going to be really heavily portfolio based in terms of what they produced. In the past, universities have requested specific portfolios, concentrating around certain areas. And I know I've worked with international students and my art teacher James in this area to ensure that they can get the right work off to universities within time frame. But anyone looking to come over and do an art-based course, whether it's a foundation or an art A level, yeah, having that portfolio in place and that evidence of work is extremely important in the application process.
Absolutely, and I'll just come in on that one. Say that from the art school side of things, no, there isn't a huge amount of changes coming up. The portfolio will always stand as the strongest test as to whether a student has the right or the requisite skill set in order to be able to enter onto that course. One thing we have seen this year, though, is a real competition, or an increased competition for places, particularly within the University of the Arts London, and therefore they put more emphasis as well onto the personal statement as a way of trying to be able to differentiate between the candidates themselves, to look at where your inspirations come from, what actually has taken you to this stage, because there are so many people with such strong portfolios nowadays. It's also about the clarity of thought and the clarity of direction that's taken you to that stage. So that is a bit of a shift, not a conscious shift that's being encouraged, but is a shift in terms of they need to be able to distinguish between candidates at a time when there is an increased number of candidates applying to the art schools themselves. So that hopefully will be something that we pick up on in a couple of weeks' time now with Greg, in order to be able to go through that. Sorry, Ryan.
No, yeah, no, good,
oh, okay.
Great.
There's a request here for some reference examples that would be great, and I'm sure that is something that can be provided. I
Yeah,
mean,
we can do that.
is there anything you wanted to say on that point at the moment?
No, I can obviously remove the names from a few and get them over to you. Some examples for different courses. That's not a problem. Yeah.
Lovely. And a comment here that to use ChatGPT to edit grammar, is that okay to do? And I think the answer to that is yes. In the grand scheme of things, if you're using it to edit, it is an important point, though, isn't it, Ryan? That grammar is exceptionally important when it comes through to personal statements, because it's almost the way of just getting through a system of saying, well, look, this person can write, this person can't, and
Yeah.
therefore it's not quite as draconian as that. But it is a really important point that it demonstrates your level of English and your ability to write there. So a tool to do that isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, I if there's tools available to help that out there, then yeah, that's fine.
And one other question that's come up in the chat, which may actually be a better reference to over to our Hong Kong team, to Andy, to Sharon, to Chibi, in terms of GCSE equivalent grades. If it's not as obvious as the Hong Kong grades, as mentioned, what is the GCSE equivalent grades for Taiwanese students, for example? And I think that's going to be a more of a market-specific question, Camille. So I'm going to refer you on to our Hong Kong team for that in order to answer that directly for you. Because other than the senior high school leaving certificate, which I think is probably the equivalent, I'd rather you got a more targeted answer than that. One thing I would say, and I might be shooting us in the foot here, but if you don't have GCSEs, it isn't the worst thing in the world. Usually what we're looking at then is the A levels and the foundation courses and the level and the strength that you've got there. GCSEs are only relevant if you've been in the GCSE system. Other than that, for most international students, your focal point starts at the moment you join the English system, not really at the point that you were before that. So it's always comes to the point where it's most understood, which is when you actually come into the English system itself at whatever level that is. Is that a fair comment, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a benefit to have them in some areas. But yeah, we've placed students on extremely good courses who don't have a traditional profile in that way. And I think, again, like I said earlier, it partly is because it's just not understood in the right way. People look at the students' profiles and what they've done in the past and just don't really understand it. So yeah, I think if you can come and get those 3 A's on the NCK Foundation, or get your top A level grades, I think it becomes less important then.
Lovely. Look, one more question from me, and if anyone else has any more, then please just throw in now. But is this designed as a trial from UCAS, or is it now concrete? As in, are they going to look at it for the next, first phase of the cycle and go, this works, this doesn't, or is it now considered as law, as it were, and this is the way it's going to move forward for as long as possible?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think the size of the change of references is so big that I think to try and reverse it quickly, to quote some like business stuff, it's not like incremental change, is it? It's big change quite quick. So I mean, imagine if it was an absolute disaster in the first cycle, they might look at it again. But I mean, my instinct is it will work. And I just think, I mean, I keep going back to it, but that third box where we get to write that information, so the purple one, I think in essence that is like your old reference, but you're just not gonna have as many characters to do it. So you're just gonna have to provide that concise information to sell that student. And again, we can differentiate by putting the time into it, where other schools may again just see this as a tick box exercise, copy and pasting generic information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Any more questions from anyone? Just while we wait for those to come through, Ryan, do you have any insights, views from this year in terms of where pinch points have been, where certain surprises have come through in terms of not enough places, more places than you thought, and any guidance towards clearing this year in terms of what you think it's going to be like?
Yeah, definitely. So I would just say it's slow. So there's still an enormous amount of students who haven't had all of their offers back from universities, or they're just starting to trickle through in the last week or so. So yeah, I mean, universities, they seem to be taking their time to consider applications a lot more than before, and whether that's because of the number of applications being submitted. I know from the UCAS meeting I attended a few weeks ago. Again, it's record international numbers in terms of applications with certain regions. So places like Saudi and Nigeria, numbers are increasing dramatically. So yeah, it's super competitive as always, and especially for your top universities, your Imperials, your UCLs, your London universities. The offers from them seem to be slower. They are coming, but yeah, they're definitely considering applications a lot longer. And yeah, in the world of clearing, it's all about getting in early. So my advice to students always is, if you're worried about your results, worried about what grade you're going to get, and if you feel like you might not hit the grade you need for your first or your firm choice, have a list of phone numbers written down the day before. Make sure you've got the clearing line numbers ready to go in the morning. Look where the places are available, get your grades and get on the phone. I mean, a big advantage, especially on the NCUK Foundation program, is that NCUK kindly do this for you. So as an NCUK student, you get your results. I mean, as a September student, you get them in July anyway, which gives you an advantage because they're a month before A-level students. But they compile a list of clearing options for you. So you log in, you get your results, and you've got a list of clearing, and you can literally just select one. I know UCAS are trying to move more towards that and make the process easier, but yeah, students have got to be prepared, or agents get the ball rolling early with any students you've got concerns about, to make sure you give them the best opportunity to get into the top university through clearing.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed, Ryan. Any more questions from the floor at all? I don't think so. There was a point raised a moment ago about whether there's a recording available. Yes, there will be. The recording will be available straight after this. It's also available on the MPW YouTube channel. I would like to just pop a comment in here, which is, as well as the MPW Talks series that we have booked in for May, if anyone would like any guidance sessions or for us to do any guidance sessions on specific topics that you'd like to know more about, do let us know. Because as much as this is us telling you and delivering information that we feel is relevant and necessary for you, where there are other topics that you wish to be guided and informed about, our job is to do just that. So do let us know any further topics that you would possibly like. And also, one other is going to appear in your diaries over the course of the next month as well, which is going to be a look at the new MPW boarding facility from a guided tour perspective. And you'll find out more about that from your emails that will be coming through in the next couple of weeks. But for now, I want to say a very big thank you to Ryan for giving up his time this morning and his insights into the UCAS process. So Ryan, thank you very much indeed. All the very best for the rest of this academic term. And all the very best to all of you as well for joining us. And thank you for this very morning today. And we will see you next week, hopefully. Which is for how to actually become part of the varsity of Oxford and Cambridge. So this will be next Tuesday at 10 a.m. So for now, all the very best and enjoy the rest of your days. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, James. Thanks, guys. See you later. Bye.